Ivor, why did you feel the need to post your thoughts on Facebook?
Lynette, it just felt for me like everyone is having an opinion and everyone is talking at the bullies and everyone is saying how they stand against bullying. But it feels like everyone is just being reactive and not proactive. So instead of doing what is necessary from influencers and influential people, instead of doing what is necessary from us, pre an incident like this, just kind of look like we are responding post an incident like this. And it just kind of feels like everyone is seeking to build their own platform through someone else's trauma. And we live in this culture where we would rather record something instead of helping somewhere, and I just felt the need to just set that right, that those of us who are passive bystanders, we kind of are also complicit to these things.
You mentioned an incident where you were a motivational speaker at a school and you were actually engaging with the students, and soon after, an incident happened. Give us some background to that, and how that, in a way, enhanced what your message was in your post.
Yes, so I was at a local school in the West Rand area, and I do share my story. I'm in a schools week, sponsored by some organizations, and I go visit a couple of schools. And at this specific school, right after, directly after the talk, I was talking about bullying. I was talking about courage. I was talking about making better choices, regardless of your circumstances. That your circumstances is not a defining factor. Your choices are. And as we move out of the hall, one kid pull out the chair from another. Now, these are all grade six and sevens. So they're able to distinguish between right and wrong. And the one kid pulled a chair from underneath the one, and he fell to the floor, and he got up and he smacked him without a moment's thinking, smacked him across the face. Two of his friends jumped in and they started beating this one. The other, the one who pulled the chair, his cousin came along wanting to defend his cousin, and they were giving the teacher such attitude. And then the teacher said, listen, I have to actually report you, but if you're willing to sit alone with sir, and chat to him and really listen to him, I won't write you or write your names up. And so I sat with him, and as is my way with with young kids, because it was my personal experience from years ago, when I bully, when I hurt, when I smack, that is just the reaction of something that is larger, broken or disconnected within me. So I asked them questions about their stories. So, how's things at home? Who are you staying with? And I kid you not one of the five boys had a father at home. In fact, they were so comfortable at grade six level to tell me, my father is a druggie. I don't know my grandmother. None of them had anything positive to say about the community. And so the bigger problem for me is this, that people run to social media to express their outrage, but right in their communities, kids are growing up without fathers, growing in poor conditions, and not being mentored. But we run to social media to express our outrage.
You said something that I thought really we needed to talk a little bit more about. You said, and one by one, their stories came out. Not one of them had a father at home. Not one of them had something good to say about their community. Not one of them was hopeful about life. That doesn't excuse what they did, but it explains what's missing. And you touch on fatherlessness, and then you say, but
Yes.
there's another problem too: passive bystanders.
Yes. So the idea of passive bystanders is what we all know. People wait for someone else to do the work, someone else to correct the kids, someone else to mentor, someone else. We would rather take out our phones and we would record the incident because someone else will fix the problem. And that is what's hurting communities at the moment. Way too many bystanders recording events, rather than stepping in and assisting in the event. As long as they can go viral, then we don't care about what is happening in our communities. And I think we need to start there. It's not solely the fatherlessness. It's not the fact that these young kids are hopeless. It's the fact that everyone knows it's happening in our communities, but everyone make it as if it's not my monkey, not my circus. And in the world that we live in today, we need people as of old. We need communities to say, I am responsible for your child when you are not around. You are responsible for my child when I'm not around, because that's the only way we will heal our communities. If we don't do that, this problem will perpetuate itself over and over and over.
You said that you are visiting various schools in on the West Rand, Roodepoort, and etc. Other areas. What are there commonalities? Are there problems that all these schools face? What is happening in our schools based on what you've seen in not only this past week but the work that you do?
Yeah, so in my work, Lynette, a couple of common denominators is, first of all, there's a lot of disrespect towards not just teachers, but towards adult authoritative figures in general. There's a lot of disrespect in schools with regards to that. There's a lot of vaping going on in schools. There's a lot of young people, no matter what the encouragement is that they get from school, because some of the schools, they are doing amazing work. Some of this one school, they give lunch and breakfast to over 400 kids every single day of the week. So they're doing amazing work. But there's a disconnect between the school and the community. All of these kids have to go home to a house where there's only a granny who's surviving on Sasa. They're going home to living with an uncle who is abusive. They're going home to experiences that doesn't reflect the hope-filled message that they've received. So they live with this constant disconnection and tension in between them. So on one end, you're telling me there's hope and there's a future and I can do that. But when I get home to my lived realities, it doesn't match what your motivational talk doesn't match what I'm experiencing at home, And then there's the bullying. The bullying is a big thing, and it stems from this idea that I have to, and I spoke this week about it at every single school, stems from this idea that I have to protect my heart. If I talk about how I'm being abused, then I'm the weak one. If I put my hand up and say, I struggle, I'm hurting, I'm confused, I'm scared, then I'm the weak one. So you could see in some of their faces are so hard with the seething rage of disconnection, of abandonment, of rejection. And I kid you not, Lynette, the way I spoke to them, sometimes very harsh, sometimes with tears in my eyes, you could see that they get it. You could see how they wipe away the tears. You could see they are catching the message. But it doesn't help if they go home to their circumstances.
And when you do reach out, where you expect the teaching fraternity, the principal or the teachers to create that safe haven, and you feel even more abandoned when you reach out and there is no response, nothing happens. Talk to me about that disconnect and that distrust that eventually evolves.
The problem, and I you know I'm a I believe in the work schools do, and the teaching staff and educators and their wellness. They are overwhelmed, but I do get the sense in many schools that I go to, that there is I want to teach these kids to how to respect adults and how to make choices that reflect the future story they want. But then you see some of the kids, so if it's the school's policy to not wear a beanie when you're in the hall, as I'm talking to the kids, there's teachers walking around ripping off beanies off the kids' heads, humiliating them in that space while they're listening to a motivational message. And so I think the idea of teacher wellness, not just teaching them how to teach,
Mm,
teaching them how to be human, how to treat learners as, not that they don't treat them as human, but to have that deep sense of compassion. Now I know that they are overwhelmed, and there's very little room for them to teach and to discipline and to have compassion. I get that. But if you invite a speaker to share a message of compassion, then you have to show that compassion. So that's where a big disconnect, but it also stems for teachers from those three things that I talk to teachers about in my teachers talk: burnout, compassion fatigue, and crisis fatigue. They have to respond to crisis upon crisis, and it makes them tired. They start the year off strong. This year I'm gonna give my all, and then by September, if they didn't manage their own sleeping patterns, their own, and I know there's a lot of other factors for that. Their compassion dies out, towards
mm.
September, and then the burnout kicks in, and then they care less than they used to in February. They pay less attention than they used to in February. That doesn't excuse the children's behavior, but it also doesn't excuse your behavior.
What is the message that you want to share with other students that have either attended, or a parent or a teacher attended some of your motivational talks, particularly regarding bullying? What is the core message that you want to leave with them? Because I'm going to post this on my social media platforms, but I know you also do this work because you're passionate about it.
So the message especially while the topic of bullying is such a hot topic, the message is quite simple. Every bully, regardless of what size, whether they're in the workplace or in the school, every bully has a story. And if you don't work with a bully, knowing that they, or at least from the assumption that they have a story, and that story has shaped them, that story has hurt them, that story has, rejection and abandonment. If you don't start off from that place, every bully has a story. You will only respond to what they have done and not to who they
Mm,
are. Because the question that we need to address, workplace bullies, any place bully, who are they? What formed them to be? Maybe it is the fact that they've never heard that they are good enough. Maybe it is a fear of being seen as less. And so, if you ask and you prod and you challenge them based on who they are, and I'm a massive believer in positive reinforcement. So instead of saying how bad they are, just tell them, listen, that doesn't look like you are acting out of who you truly are. Your behavior now, it's not a marker of your true identity. You are responding to from something that's not you. What is happening? And that allows the room for them to open up. But if you label them immediately, yellow gemorste, yellow bully, you guys are, you just bad, you belong in prison, you must be, all of your sponsors must be taken away. They have to take the consequences. But that's not gonna transform their hearts. They're gonna say sorry because they were caught, but it's not gonna change their hearts. You need to change their hearts.